What's up, guys? It's your girl Elle, and I have a PSA today for anyone who struggles with seasonal depression or SADS in the fall season and in the winter season, because I'm somebody who used to struggle with that until I learned what's really happening and actually how normal it is to feel that way during the fall and winter season. So let's just jump into it. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about uncomfortable emotions. Uncomfortable emotions being fear, anger, frustration, grief, sadness, despair. These are all really uncomfortable emotions. And unfortunately, in Western society, we have been taught to fear these things, to not feel them, to ignore them, to disassociate from them, to stuff them down, and to basically be perfect all the time, be happy all the time. Happy, happy, happy all the time. And it's ridiculous because that is not normal. What's normal is for us to experience a whole spectrum of emotions. And so when we take a look at the fall and winter season, what's happening is the season's changing. And what that means for us as humans who are a part of this planet, who are animals at the root of it, life, all of life. I'm talking what happens in space, what happens on this planet, what happens energetically. Everything that we experience is cyclical. Nothing is linear. It is in a cycle. That's just how life works. You can see this all throughout history, all throughout science, all throughout everything. It's just life is a series of cycling. And so what happens in fall is we begin to become very introspective, because fall is a time in which we're supposed to go more inward and take stock of how our year has gone so far. You know, what did we learn? What did we not learn? What did we do really good this year? What did we not do so good this year? What do we want to work on? What do we want to build upon? Who were we being this year? And am I liking that version of myself? Fall is a time in which endings begin to happen. And you can see that with the trees. The leaves begin to turn color and the grass begins to die and things begin to die. It's making that transitional shift into winter time. And winter is a time of death. A lot of things die in the winter only to be reborn in the in the spring. And so when we really look at these seasons, they are a time of deeply going inward. They're a time where really we should be giving ourselves permission to not feel so bubbly and so good all the time. It's like a permission slip to actually go in and feel the heavier stuff. It's a time of endings, which means a lot of relationships tend to end around fall and winter. A lot of people tend to move, switch jobs. A lot of endings begin to happen. And so it's normal. It's normal to grieve a relationship or a job or a version of yourself that might be dying in the process. But to experience seasonal depression is a really normal thing when we look at it like that. Also, the sun's not shining as much. So we're not getting enough vitamin D. When we're not getting enough vitamin D, that can really put an effect on how our hormones and how our body works, making it harder to produce serotonin. But really what it is it's life is asking us to slow down. Life is asking us to go inward and to question things and to just change it up. Think about it. When it gets colder, we crave different types of foods because our eating is cyclical. Eating more nourishing warm foods like soups and teas and different types of fruits and vegetables that are seasonal, that nourish our bodies when our bodies are going through a change and a transition, which does happen with seasons because we are cyclical beings. And so when I realized this, and I realized that the seasonal depression would affect me so bad, it was because I was literally repressing and afraid of all of my uncomfortable emotions. And in the fall, it was like I couldn't help it. It was like there was no more stuffing it down. It made everything come up and it would be really explosive in my life. But once I learned that that's actually really normal, instead of making it worse by just exploding and reacting poorly to all of my emotions, I began to start journaling during this time a lot more, spending more time by myself, spending more time in meditation, spending more time in nature, spending more time nourishing myself with the types of foods that seasonally come around fall and winter. And I began to get really curious about what these emotions I was feeling were and what did it mean for me. And how was that affecting things in my life? And soon I started to get messages about who I was and where I wanted to be and where I was going and what wasn't working in my life anymore. And so This message is really just for anybody who's not looking forward to fall and winter because of all the heavy emotions that come up, because you get a little depressed and it's not fun because you can't go out drinking and being on the beach all the time. But what's happening is a lot of our distractions that we have through substance use or traveling and having fun, like, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but when we're constantly using substances and going to the beach and traveling and playing and hanging out with people, when that becomes a distraction from actually going in and doing the inner work and feeling our feelings and listening to what our feelings have to tell us, because feelings are great messengers. When you realize that, you realize, oh man, this is a real opportunity for me to connect deeper with myself, connect deeper to my emotions and what they're trying to tell me. It's an opportunity for me to just be with myself a little bit more. And this might sound really scary for people who are kind of codependent, or for people who really lean on needing the distraction of other people. If you're somebody who's super extroverted and super social and you just really need to be around people all the time, it's usually because you're avoiding going in and feeling something. I know, because that was me. And now I just love my alone time. I love this season because it allows me to go inward and to deepen my practices and to deepen my relationship with myself. So instead of us seeing this time of year as this like really depressing and hopeless and shitty time of year, what if we decided, wow, I'm experiencing some really uncomfortable emotions. Let's journal and get curious about that. Let's do some breathing and meditation and get curious about that, and get curious about these uncomfortable emotions instead of labeling them good or bad, because no emotion is good or bad. They're just comfortable or uncomfortable. And so if we can just begin to see our emotions that way, we can begin to realize that it's not actually maybe depression that we're experiencing. It's just like a really heavy grief or a really heavy sadness that hasn't been addressed for years, probably. And that if we can hold that part of ourselves with compassion and love, that we just might find out something about ourselves. So that's my PSA. Get comfortable in the uncomfortable, because winter and fall bring uncomfortable emotions, and that is done by design. That is done on purpose. You are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You haven't done something wrong. You're not weird. You don't have some disease. You don't have an illness. You don't have this. You don't have that. It is normal for everyone to begin feeling introspective and heavy, heavy emotions during the fall and winter seasons. So I hope that this helped. I hope that this made you feel just a little bit more normal and maybe a little bit more comfortable with the idea of getting comfortable feeling your uncomfortable emotions. Anyway, that's it for now, guys.